gluttons for punishment. Okay, so anyway, I did yesterday. I like taking questions from you because I don't like talking right off the top because I have no idea what I'm going to be saying until somebody says something to me and then all these things come out of my mouth. So obviously Highlander was probably something that a lot of you know that I did for a few years. Yeah, you did. So,
what's Highlander?
What was that scream? Somebody screamed something. Who screamed? The girl in red. It would be, wouldn't it?
Of course.
Now you're going to go rip from here up to. So yeah, Highlander was it was a 6 seasons, 5 years. Yeah, 5 years between Paris and Vancouver. And it was a great time for me. I learned a lot about acting, I learned a lot about directing, I learned a lot about producing, I learned what I should do and I learned what I shouldn't do. Because, you know, you get to see a lot of things when you watch the dailies every day, which are all the takes that you've done during the day. Which I learned a lot about what I should do as an actor. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that you guys watched it because I don't get to see, when you work at a theatre, you get immediate audience response. But when you work in a TV series or a TV show or film, you're not quite sure how many people actually like it. And I'm really surprised that all of you are here tonight. Because, you know, it's been a long time. I mean, I started Highlander in '91. People would say, you know. So it's a real privilege. Thank you very much for coming and remembering the show. I know some of you actually are seeing it now on Netflix for the first time, which is amazing to me to see new fans. And you know, I get somebody coming up to me on a regular basis saying, "Oh, Sci-Fi just ran an entire show, entire day on it. Really, you're still watching that?" So anyway, I'll take your questions because I know we're going to run out of time really quickly. I'm here for 5 minutes, I think. No, all right, 10. So I think we have some mics. Do we have any mics in the room? We got some Joes. Thank you very much. All right, anybody want to ask me anything? We have a brave person, 2. Because usually everybody at the beginning is like, I don't know if I really want to ask you.
I spoke with you earlier. I loved Highlander. But what are you up to now?
I actually have a film that's just going to be released later this year or early next year called Black Rose with Robert Darby and Kristana Loken from Terminator about police officers in Los Angeles trying to find a serial killer. There's that one. I have something called AD, which is already been released, and some of you already have the cards I handed out at my table today, which show the Peace Fund Radio, which I do every week. It's a weekly radio show. I bring other celebrities on the show. I talk about all the issues that kids have, things like homelessness, things like bullying, things like autism, the whole gamut. And so it's been a lot of fun because there's a lot of serious stuff on there, but we have a lot of jokes and things that we do on the show. So it's something I enjoy doing, but it takes a lot of my time. So I do that as well as 2 kids. One that's 3 and a half, she's a darling. One that's 1, and he's a nightmare. There goes the table. There goes the it's just, anyway. And then I also have my production company because I'm just finishing something I'm probably going to direct next year, first film I'll direct. And I'm also producing as well. So there's quite a number of things that keep me busy. And I come to all these things as well. Anybody? You can choose. You've got the mic. Is there only one mic? You only have one mic? Only one mic. There's 10 Joes and 1 mic. So just...
Sir, you just mentioned looking back, you learned what to do, what not to do. I'm kind of curious, if you can go back and reprise your role as Duncan MacLeod, what would you change and why?
I'm not sure, actually. You know, because each day that you do things, I mean, you make mistakes sometimes. You go, oh, I could have played that better. In fact, in the first season, when I got reviews, they were like, oh, he's playing all the stereotypical stuff and all that. And that sometimes comes in the writing, and you're trying to make up for things that are not in there. And I think the first season had that. So, if anything, I would like to go back to the first season and try and redo some of those episodes that I thought were more procedural, if you like. You know, a lot of procedural shows are about, let's do the bad guy of the week, let's catch this, we've got to solve this problem. Whereas Highlander is more than that. Highlander is about the relationships between people, it's about the love people have, it's about the danger, it's about the animosity, it's about everything we have as human beings. And that's where Highlander took off in the second season, in my opinion, because it dealt with those issues. So let's go to you. Who's going to be next on the mic? So you can go to the mic after. Yeah, come on down. That's it. I'm up on stage. You can come up too. Anybody has a question has to come down. There you go.
Hi, I know that you once did a series called The Dark Shadows Revive, and I wondered how was it like to work with Ben Frost and that cast, and especially Gene Simmons, since now she's gone from our presence, and how wonderful she was as an actress.
She was fabulous. I mean, you know, there are times when you, as a young actor, go out there to sort of meet your people that you've seen on TV for many times, and Gene Simmons was one of those people. And I actually used to say to people, yeah, I work with Gene Simmons. I go, what, the guy from Kiss? No. So, but she was lovely, and Ben, you know, Ben actually became a friend of mine. He played my brother in the series, and you know, I enjoyed it because I had 3 episodes, and it was a light-hearted series. I like the humour in things. I try and find humour, and that's what I found in that character.
Yeah, I met you yesterday, and I basically the same thing you did. The dynamic between the persons that were acting with you on the show were fantastic. I was wondering if there's something that you would like to see developed in any of the other characters that you just couldn't do or didn't have time to get to.
Well, obviously the cast between me, the relationship between Mythos and McLeod was. Mythos fan in the audience. You know he's a medical doctor now, right? I think it was an interesting relationship, but it was sporadic because he was a guest star, and sometimes when you're dealing with a series, they will deal with a certain amount of people that are regulars and pay them that money, and some people that actually are guest stars and pay them that money. So they brought in some very interesting storylines for him. And I think that relationship could have been developed a little bit further. It was developed to a point, but I think it could have gone a little further. Obviously, Richie and McLeod was an interesting relationship that I think they developed as far as they could. That's why I killed him. Anybody else? I don't know. It's hard to think of other characters right off the top of my head who I think could have been developed, because I think they did a good job. I just think the development, what's difficult when you're dealing with a show that's syndicated is that it is put on in different orders. In other words, when in syndication, they don't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they go 5, 10, 7, 8, 9, 15, 30. So they'll be like, well, we can't do a 2-story arc. They did, because I kept saying to them, we should do 2 stories. And they worked, because when they got played in Europe, they were in sequence. So a lot of people around the world saw them in order, and they could see the development of the characters, which I think was in the writing and in the development between the characters, the actors themselves.
So, with the show being moved around, like season to season, was that more of a chore and annoyance, or was it just fun?
No, it's fun. We shot in Vancouver at the beginning of each season, basically, and then we went to Paris, and it was a totally different vibe in Paris. One, because you're pointing the camera at 500 years worth of history immediately, so the show immediately got weight to it. Secondly, the work ethic is different in Paris.
going to have a bottle of wine with the lunch. You want me to work? Maybe.
That's why we used to work 8 hours in Paris and 11 in Vancouver, and we would actually shoot 1 extra day in Paris for the less hours we did every day. So it was different vibes, and also you have different camera moves. So it was fun because it wasn't the same thing all the time. The last season on Highlander, which was season 6, we shot Paris the entire year, which again was great because actually it was a different time of the year than I was used to. Paris.
I like the wine.
So my favorite line from the show was when Mythos said, "Sorry, bitch, I was born before chivalry." He punched her in the face. And
You really have a, like a... Yeah.
And I got to meet the guy who plays Mythos, and he said that he actually came up with that line himself.
That's very probable, yeah.
And I was wondering if there were any lines or ideas or anything that you had come up with on the show that you could share with us.
How many episodes did you see?
All of them.
All of them. There was something I was watching, me and Stan Kirsch used to joke around a lot because he was like my little brother. The funny thing was, he was the same age as, Tessa. Alexander Vanderbilt, thank you. Sorry, but she treated him like her younger brother, but they were the same age because of the dynamics. And Stan and I used to joke around a lot. It was around the time, any of you know the Jerky Boys? Yeah. Right, they had stuff where they were going, "Hey, pixel neck," and they do. So we did a scene, when we did the shows in Paris, we would have to actually do 1 scene extra in Paris because the shows in the transfer between PAL and NTSC had to do an extra 4 minutes. So we would do an extra 4-minute scene. Well, no, they usually got translated. They were never in English. So we're doing things like, "Hey, pencil neck, what are you doing today?" "I don't know, what do you like to do?" "Rubberneck," and all this stuff. So we would make this stuff up. And they'd go, "Okay, fine, we'll never see it in America." So but in Europe, they change it like, "Hello, you are very nice." "Would you like some wine?" Yeah.
So, were you pissed off when they turned you into an alien? And where did you keep the swords?
Which show you watch? An alien?
When they turned all mortals into aliens.
Oh no, I wasn't born at that point. What movie were you hiding? What was that?
That was a movie.
You're hiding.
Big canon.
What movie? What movie? What movie? Fans of Davis will tell you there was not two.
First off, I want to say it's amazing to see you because I watched that show religiously growing up. You look the same, so clearly you are the last. Me growing up, that show really inspired and stoked my interest in swordplay. So my question to you was about the training that you had to do to learn how to swordplay.
Well, I started about a year before I was doing the show. I happened to be training with an ex-Vietnam vet who did a lot of unarmed combat and sword work. He happened to be working a little bit with the katana. And I didn't do a lot, I just did some. When I got onto the series itself, I worked with a fantastic choreographer, Bob Anderson, God bless him, who some of you know did so many things. I mean, really, the guy was incredible. When I knew him, he was 65 and throwing himself on the floor, going, hey, what's it? We should vote here and do something. Bob, would you get up, please? Bob, you know, but he was fantastic, and he taught me really a lot about the fencing styles, which katana is not, but the fencing styles of first, second, third, fourth, fifth, etc. Then I trained with my Sifu, which was Vernon Rieda. He's half Chinese and half Hawaiian. I studied Hung Gar Kung Fu, and Hung Gar Kung Fu is very strong. It's a very strong Kung Fu form, and it's very flowy when you take a lot of the artwork from Chinese swordwork. So I learned that style. Then I was learning Korean style in the show from a guy called Rick Faraci, who was a world champion in icebreaker as well. He did a lot of swordwork. So I picked a lot of things up as I went along. And I worked with F. Makash, who was much more karate style, so he's very linear. And that was really interesting because as I fought with different people, I would actually have to, I created my style. My style became, or Duncan MacLeod's style, became what my Sifu, my Vernon would say to me. He said, a martial artist is a painter. He doesn't paint with one color. He paints with many. So that's what Duncan MacLeod did. I picked from a lot of different places, and I think you will see, as the years went on, my swordwork changed and became very different. You stole your question?
Yeah, and you used to model, you used to dance, and I was going to ask if dancing helped you with your learning the martial arts.
Yeah.
So I have to come up with a different question. So, my question is, all these Backlash episodes, do you have any favorites?
I always loved when he went to, when MacLeod went to the Highlands of Scotland, just because that's his roots. I mean, I look at the pictures sometimes and I go, oh God, yeah, that was really cool. You know, we did the Wild West. It was kind of the look, the long hair and the goatee mustache thing, and the look was kind of cool. But then there was things like, you know, you go into the 1700s and he would be the little goatee, the chevalier, because, you know, all of you out here have your lives that you've gone through, and each stage of your life you've been different. Well, this guy's had 400 years to change. So during each stage of his life, he was different. He was, you know, he changed, and that's what we did as we went along. We changed those things. So each time we went, we went, oh, how do we change this? What was he like in this period? And some of you, I've actually signed them. There is a chart that shows Duncan MacLeod's journeys across the 400 years, and you see exactly where he went. And I actually remember saying to Bill Panzer, I said, Bill, what we have to do is we make sure that when we shoot this episode, we take Polaroids, we do everything about knowing what the costumes are, where he was at that particular time, because if we shoot 2 years down the road, and we have to go back to put another episode the same, you will notice the difference if I'm wearing the wrong shoes, if I'm wearing the different jacket, or if I'm behaving totally different than I was at that time. You wouldn't be able to put those episodes together, and that actually happened in the very last year of the season, or the 5th season, where they went back to Scotland during the Bonnie Prince Charlie era. And they put 2 or 3 of the earlier things in a flashback, as well as the one we actually shot. So putting them back to back, that was the same costume. You would have known that we shot them 2 years and 3 years apart.
Hi, I was wondering if you remember working on Murder, She Wrote, if you had any stories from working there?
My wife hates that one. You know, the thing is it was a very quick, Angela Lansbury was always very gracious. That's what I remember. It was back in the late 80s, I think, but she wrote 90, I think, possibly. So it was a long time ago. And when you go in as a guest star, some things kind of just stick. I just kind of remember being in the rehearsal room doing those scenes. The specific instances, I can't remember. I'm not on Alzheimer's now, so I can't give you those, but I just remember it was fun to do. And again, I was a young guy, sort of, you know, I'd come out doing the Colbys. I was an English Italian playing a Russian American TV series. And now as a In that one, I was kind of like an American English guy, choreographer, bad boy. Misunderstood, of course.
So, you mentioned that you have a sense of humor. And
No, I didn't.
you mentioned that you have a wife. Are you free for dinner tonight?
Actually, no, no.
Oh, well, it was worth a shot.
It's the sense of humor that got you, was it? Hopefully, yeah.
Well, I'm not going to ask you out for dinner.
Thank you.
Unless you're paying, there's more wine. What was your emotional beheading and what was your favorite?
What was my what beheading?
As far as getting rid of a character, what was your most emotional attachment to a...
Oh, well, detachment on the pun. Well, I think, obviously, for me, I think one of the hardest was Richie. You know, that was a tough one to do. It was emotional, because I'd known Stan for 5 years at that point. And so that was a very hard, emotional moment to take. Another one I would say was in Endgame with Christopher, because he was like my brother. And actually, Christopher was a really nice guy too. The funny thing is, if those of you who have seen Endgame, the lead up on the fight to just before the beheading happens, it actually, there's a portion of it where I'm telling him, please don't do this, don't do this. We shot that like weeks before in a warehouse. So it was really weird, but emotionally it was connected because I knew who I was talking to. The last one that was probably the most emotional, strangely enough, and it was not beheading, and that was Jim Burns, when Jim Burns died in the Source. It was like my dad. It's like losing my dad. It was so like gut-wrenching for me. But you don't see that in that, but there was much more happening in that scene than you can see.
Which one was your favorite?
What you mean as the hardest of the one I...
Which one did you enjoy the most?
Do you cry? Do you like pain or something? Oh, I love that one. That really beat me up. I don't know, you know, it's like...
I told you we'd get to dinner and have some wine.
Yeah. I'm getting worried here. I don't know which was my favourite. I mean, the favourite in a sense was Jim Burns, if you like, because it was the easiest to do. The easiest and the hardest at the same time.
Thank you.
I just want to ask, watching the movies and watching the movies you were in the show all the shows that you did, one of the things that I was always interested in is what is the mythology of when you receive a quickening, how do you play that out? How do you think about playing that out?
To me, the quickenings were the relationships between me and who it was I was taking the head from. One of the failings in Highlander, somebody brought it up to me yesterday, was what do you get when you get the quickening from somebody? You get more power when you do Grayson. It's the most powerful immortal. When you had this guy, he was super bad. So do you get that? And at one point we showed that did happen. When McLeod turned bad, he actually did receive that, but was able to, because of who he was, overcome it eventually. That was really hard to keep doing it week in, week out, because, what do you get? How do you do it? So the only way I could make it make sense was when I did quickenings. The quickening was either I don't want it, I want it, I like it, I hate it. So in certain things, there's a lot of subtlety in that, and sometimes I would walk away from it like, good, I've done that, because I was pissed off with the guy whose head I'd taken. Otherwise, it would be, really didn't want to do that, and I'd end up being on my knees still. So there's a slight difference in the ones that I did. It's tough to do.
Hi, I know you already answered about your favorite flashback, but I was wondering what was your favorite episode?
That's kind of tough, because I mean, there were so many, and different years had different things and different reasons. Sometimes it's because of the people I work with, and sometimes it was because of the context. I really liked the one with Hitler for some reason. that was purely and simply because the storyline was not about me and the girl. The storyline was about MacLeod being in the bunker and could have been the one to get rid of Hitler at the time. And I said, that's not the story we should be playing. We should be playing about the relationship between me and her. And that's what it turned into be. So I really like it when we can adjust a storyline and really make it personal. Obviously, the other one I really enjoyed was Homeland, because Homeland was, to me, MacLeod's roots, and I got the chance to direct it. This was interesting. So that would be another favourite of mine, and I also like the Horsemen of the Apocalypse. I thought those were two back-to-back episodes that somebody else liked it too. Those would be the two that I think. And there are others for different reasons. I mean, I love playing with Roger Dalton. Those ones are all about. And you see, that's the thing about Highlander. Every week you're doing something different. You're not playing the same thing. You're not the same procedure. You can do somebody different, and therefore who you're playing with, it can make you a bit different. And when MacLeod was with Fitzcairn, it was always like there was always humour in it, somewhere to be found. You know, somewhere. I mean, I told the story last time that we did a flashback, and there was a cow in the background. And I think some of you have seen this, and the cow's in the background, and me and Roger are trying to do the lines. We're saying, yeah, blah, 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 and something here. Excuse me. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. This thing would not stop. We'd been cracked up. It took us about half an hour, 45 minutes just to do that one scene. So there were a lot of great moments, you know, that we had. I think, you know, I enjoyed doing it for different reasons.
That was actually going to be my question. I was going to ask you how you like working with Roger Dalton and what one of your favorite moments was.
You know, I always remember Roger when he first came on. He was, he had this pipe when he first started. He had this little pipe, right? And he loved smoking that around the stage. You know, but it made him this little. When I saw him, it reminded me of a leprechaun. Just the way he had his hair and the whole thing. It was like, and I thought. Immediately when we first worked together, and I think it was season 2, possibly, or end of season 1, I can't remember. And I just thought this could be a really fun relationship that goes on and on and on and on. And it was, you know, he was always a joy to work with because he's a very down-to-earth person, and I like that. No attitude, no nothing, and he's a guy that has 60,000 people in an arena. You know, he's a superstar. I mean, he's been around for many, many years, and he was just like you and me. Just talked to me, and I really appreciated that.
Thank you.
I was just wondering how you felt when Kesha died.
Tess?
Yes.
Well, I've told this story a couple of times. Alexandra wanted to leave the show after the first year because she had come from Paris. When we shot the Vancouver section of it, she got very unhappy toward the end of it because she was away from her family, she was away from her friends, she was away from her boyfriend. It was hard for her, you know, you're there 5-6 months and you really don't see these people. So we got to Paris, things changed, but she still said, I want my career, you know, to go another level. I want to do film, I want to do this. So at the beginning of season 2, and the 4th episode, they came up with this idea, which I thought was really good for Highlander, because Highlander, you never knew quite what was going to happen, and nobody expected Tessa to die in that manner. And so, you know, Alexandra always said to me, I want to do film, you know, I like working with you, but I want to go and do some film. And I said, all right, well, you know, so about 2-3 years later, she came back, I saw her again, she goes, Adrian, everybody knows me from Highlander. I don't know. I think she really regretted, actually. You don't leave a good show, because you never know where it went, and at the end of the first season, you were kind of not sure if the show was going to work, and then it just took off. And the notoriety that she would have gotten, especially in France, her home country, would have been a lot greater than actually leaving it at that particular stage. But, you know, I love her to death, and, you know, she is one of the fan favourites of that relationship with MacLeod.
Thank you.
Are you still racing?
Racing what? Oh, the Carrera Panamericana, the cars?
Yeah.
I haven't done, except in my car at home, which I shouldn't do. Where was I? I was going down to Orange County, and I was presenting it was about 3 weeks ago for 911 for Kids, which is a fabulous program. You all should look at it. If you have kids, you should teach kids how to use 911 correctly and how people should use 911 correctly. Anyway, I was presenting at this award. There's the sheriff, there's the fire chief, there's every law enforcement, and I'm doing 95 going down the freeway. Two thoughts went through my head. I'm late, I've got to get there, I've got to get there. Do you think they'll let me off the ticket if I really get So, that's my racing. My racing was in Mexico, which was a fun event to do. It was the weird thing about that. I've got a story about that. Not a story about a lot of things, but what happened in that one was I was going down from Vancouver down to Mexico to do this race event, and they flew me from Los Angeles from Vancouver to Los Angeles to Mexico City, and then from Mexico City they were going to take me to this place further south, Guanajuato, I think it was. I missed the connection in Los Angeles to go to Vancouver because I had my dog, my Rottweiler, with me. So I get to Paris, they're like scrambling trying to rearrange flights. And they're like, don't worry, we'll get you back to Mexico City and we've got a private plane to take you. I'm like, great, you know, that's cool. Then I'm flying down, they're going, I hope it's not one of those little biplanes. You know, those little... And so they take me out of Mexico City, somebody meets me, it's pouring rain, and it's actually thunderstorm in the background, thunder and lightning. And we get to this airport, and it's a private jet airport, and I'm looking at the big jets, I'm like, cool, this is great. And I see the doors are there, and I'm walking out to the doors, and out there is this jet. They say, okay, this way. I'm like, oh great, this is fabulous. I walk out the doors, and they turn left. And they keep walking, they go there, and there's a little biplane. I'm like, oh great. So we took off, and this thing, I'd never been in one before. You know, when you go on a jet airline that goes, it takes off. This thing went. I'm looking at the window going, oh please. So we get there, and when I get there, the Highlander car had broken down, had blown the engine, because when they were using the gasoline down in Mexico, they had to put the additives in, so they burnt out the engine. So the next morning, I was there helping them put the engine back together. That'll work, yeah, that's good, yeah. You want me to what? I can get my hands dirty. So, we got the car back on the road a little late, but then I drove it from there to Mexico City. And they had behind me, because there's a film of that, they did it behind the scenes on the whole thing, me driving it. I was driving a Jag, a 1954 Jag, that had windshield wipers about this big. And we had me and my co-driver who had driven the whole first day. He'd fallen asleep inside there. We both had crash helmets on because we were open top. We go through all these canyons. I'm doing 120, 125, which is great. Get to the freeway to go into Mexico City, and it starts to rain. Open top, dry weather wheels. The car is now, because the freeway also had little divots in it like this, so that they were filling up with water. So my car is doing this. I'm going, oh, this is real fun, I'm enjoying this. So I slowed down to about 70. And suddenly this bus or truck went past me and hit a puddle and went... They turned around to me, but the people behind me said, oh, damn, we didn't have the camera running. Oh, I'm sorry. So, that was the end of that.
There was a very interesting character in the first season named Darius, and unfortunately the actor who played him died. I'm just curious where Highlander would have gone had the actor who played Darius survived, but it didn't in the season.
To answer that, I don't know, because Mythos' character was a replacement for that. And I believe everything happens for a reason. I love the man, I don't mean that I wish that he died, but if you had not brought if that had not happened, the Mythos character wouldn't have come in and they wouldn't have been able to take that storyline in that direction in the way that they did. So, to me, it was, I don't know where they would have taken Darius. They were very similar characters. They were the old, wise, you know, immortal that has been around for years, who knows it all. I thought I knew it all, but they knew it all more than I did, you know. So I don't know where they would have taken it.
Over the course of the series, other than the katana, Duncan ended up using a couple of different weapons. What was the training for them? Was it any different? Was it any harder?
It was, here you go. Play with that for a little bit. I mean, because basically, you know, you get they come in, and yes, it is very different. The hardest one was Duende. Duende was Espada y Daga, which is the Spanish longsword, which is about that long, and they were actually in Europe for 400 years. They were masters of Europe with this technique. It was a short sword on this end and a long blade on this one. It all revolved around a circle, and in the circle there were all footprints. And within the footprint, you had to step within the circles. Basically, this is how they trained. They figured out that their opponent would be within reach. And Anthony DeLongis had come in, and he brought that kind of idea to us. That's really hard, going from this to this motion. It's a different motion entirely. And the way I learned that was in between takes. I was doing the scenes and I literally would go, finish the take, great, okay. F-Bron, okay, what have we got? Adrian, you ready? Okay, great, okay, and I'd go back. And the funny thing was, not funny, but when we shot it, it was raining. And this thing was very precise. You can't really see that blade. It's not like doing this. You couldn't quite see the blade, so we both fell a couple of times, which was lucky. Accidents happen, but it was very technical, very difficult to do. The other ones I didn't like as much was the basket film that we used, which is the old Scottish one, because you used to rub the knuckles a little bit. I think they probably did something different for it in the old days, but that was a whole different. That was very similar to the fencing. It had this type of style to it, that type of thing. So it was more of a fencing style. That was easy, but I just took it from what Bob Anderson or all the others were actually giving me. Nobody's asked me about the injuries yet. Oh, you know what I mean. Oh gosh, I'll answer this quick.
The wife and I have, gathered films over the years of us being together, and Highlander has been one of them. We have a Highlander marathon about once a year. We'll watch all of it. And there's still something that eludes us after all of these years of watching you and watching these series and having our marathons. Where does the dead bodies go?
It's the same place where the sword comes from.